What's up, St. Louis? Welcome into Hockey Sense. Welcome back today. Hope everybody's feeling good. It's a Friday, and I hope you had a good week so far. Looking forward to a great weekend. Once again, Blues win last night in Toronto. They play well in Toronto. It seems like they do all the time. Chiefs getting upset on the bench. The media is taking notice of that. Broberg and Holloway scored the first 2 goals for the Blues in their first time going back to Canada. Now, it's not Edmonton, but it is Toronto, and the offer sheets were a monster headline story. So I was guessing that would get some attention when you have Broberg and Holloway score the first 2 goals for the Blues. Both players had great games. Holloway scored 2 goals, got the empty netter late in the game as well. Broberg just skating all over the place. And this guy should be participating in the upcoming 4 Nations for Sweden. And he keeps playing at this level. I mean, he's going to get some significant recognition as the season goes along. I'm not going to sit here and say he's going to win the Norris Trophy, but you know what I mean. He's not just a guy that's playing well. There's a difference there. There's some players who are good players and they're playing well. Maybe they get the hot stick, playing with some confidence. I think this guy has shown enough to, I think most people can just say that Philip Broberg is a really, really good player. In fact, I'm surprised Edmonton would just let go of this guy. I mean, these guys are so hard to replace. Yeah, you got to pay him $4 million, and I know they were up against it with the, extensions looming. They already got Draisaitl signed. They got a couple more to go. But how you don't take care of business with a player of his caliber who you draft in the top 10. This guy was 8th overall pick. I'll never understand it. I'm watching this guy play. He's got a elite level skill set that you want in your organization, and that's very difficult to find. I mean, only so many teams get to drafts at the top end of the draft year after year after year and get their hands on these type of guys. I mean, the Blues went how long without ever having a top 10 pick before they drafted Dalibor Dvorsky? I mean, it had been years since Alex Pietrangelo probably was the last player that they were able to take in the top 10. So again, they had the 4th overall pick in 2008. Who did they get? They get Petro. They get their hands on a right shot D who can play at an elite level. Did it for a long time, obviously brought a Stanley Cup. This is Hockey Sense. It's brought to you by First Community. Great to have you with us at the Half Coast Studios, our beautiful place here. I'm Andy Strickland. Great show planned today. Brian Burke's going to join us. Looking forward to that. He's going hunting or something tomorrow. So we actually had to do the interview yesterday before the Blues-Toronto game. He was at the game last night, so it would have been great to get his take and reaction to the game, but we're not going to be able to do that. We'll see if we can catch up with Jamal Mayers. We've had difficulty doing that the last couple of weeks. Hopefully this is the week where we can make that connection. He'd be on remote as well. He's in L.A., where the San Jose Sharks lost to the Kings last night. The Sharks, I think they have the clear distinction as the worst team in the NHL. I know you go into the season, you're like, okay, who's the bottom feeders? Who's the worst team in the NHL? Is it them? Is it going to be Columbus? Is it going to be, Chicago? I don't think anybody. Anaheim? No. Nobody is worse than San Jose. Now, the closest team could be Philadelphia. What is happening with the Flyers, man? Although, did they finally win? I want to say they just finally got their first win of the season. You see Torts and Sealer going at it on the bench. 2 fiery guys, man. I love that Sealer. Go back and listen to the interview that Cam and I did with Keith Jones, the president of the Philadelphia Flyers. We talked a lot about Nick Sealer. No, they lost, man. They lost to Washington the other night. That's when Ovi got the empty netter. Do you mind it when Ovi gets empty net goals on his chase for history to catch Wayne Gretzky? Does that bother you when he's getting empty net goals? Seems a little bit cheap. Philadelphia is 1-5 on the season, though. I don't know if anybody saw that. I've got some people who are kind of creating the Quenneville standings, the chase for Quenneville. Who's going to get Coach Q? Talked to Burke about that a little bit. It's a different situation. I think when a team is struggling, sometimes you're patient with it. You want to give your coach time. Contract status could always come into play. The The team that you have obviously comes into play. Expectations come into play. Did you not expect to be good? Are you failing to reach expectations? What is it? Is there a tight window where you only have so much more time to win with this current team? I mean, everyone's in a completely different situation. So I don't know if Philadelphia would be one of those teams that would be chasing Joel Quenneville, but you just never know. I mean, they certainly could be. Detroit's another team, although Detroit's finding ways to win. Patrick Kane's come alive. He's got goals, I think, in back-to-back games now. And I love it when Patrick Kane scores. So Derek Lalonde, good guy. Hung out with him a little bit this summer. Got to know him. Saw his staff. They were in town for the St. Louis Hockey Hall of Fame dinner. Had a great time. And I'm pulling for Derek Lalonde. So they win a couple of games in a row, including a home game last night over New Jersey. Utah has come back to life, by the way. Utah has come back to life. I know everyone was thinking maybe Utah would be a little bit different, including myself. I said maybe teams would maybe look at them and say, hey, Arizona's coming into town. No, it's Utah now. New colors and all, new uniforms, different vibe, different type of swagger. But now they've come back to earth, losing again last night at home to the Colorado Avalanche. They get pounded 5-1 the final there. So the Blues are now 5-3 on the season. You know, after a loss at home the other night, where I felt like maybe they could have done a little bit better to give them a chance against Winnipeg. And it just wasn't in the cards. Ended up losing the game 3-2. Braden Shen had a chance late in the game, wasn't able to capitalize. But it felt much different than that because you lose Robert Thomas for 6 weeks. You know, you're not going to have Robert Thomas now. You know, he's the one guy on your roster you really can't replace. But if you're going to get that type of energy and excitement and enthusiasm from Jordan Kyrou that you got last night in Toronto, it can't be just when you go back to Toronto. I mean, the idea when you're going to pick and choose when you're going to elevate your game, and I'm not talking about Kyrou, I'm talking about a lot of guys in general. You know, the players get juiced up when they go back to Toronto, especially the guys that are from there, obviously. But, you know, even the guys who aren't, who are Canadian, whatever, they understand the stage that they're on. And typically, Toronto is going to get the best from whoever they play on home ice. That's just the way it goes. The Blues have always had a lot of success there in Toronto. But we saw that from Jordan Kyrou right off the hop last night. And both of his assists were super, super nice. The Texier one from below the goal line, just a beautiful pass. And then the great skill work that was on display on Philip Broberg's goal to kick off the scoring last night. I mean, when you see Kyrou pick up the puck, go behind the net, quick punch turn, back down the wall, punch turn up the wall, under a stick, right on the tape, one-timer, boom, in the goal, right behind Joseph Woll, who was in goal for the first time last night for Toronto, St. Louis kid. I'll give you a shout-out, Joey. Great to see you back in between the pipes in the NHL. I hope that kid can stay healthy, and they need him to stay healthy. He had a great opportunity, but now it looks like Anthony Stolarz has kind of taken over there in Toronto. He's played some good hockey for them, and he looks like he's the guy, and he has the ability to carry that throughout the season. You know, playing behind Sergei Bobrovsky the last couple of years, I'm sure helps Stolarz, you know, just in terms of understanding how a great goaltender like Bobrovsky prepares, how he goes about his business. Bobrovsky, by the way, just got his 400th win, so a big shout out to Bobrovsky. But Kyrou, I loved it, man. I absolutely loved it. To see him play like that, and now with Robert Thomas down, listen, this is where you need Buchnevich to step up. This is where you need, you know, Kyrou to obviously step up, but I'll tell you who else. You need Braden Shen now, because, you know, Shen's going to be elevated up the lineup. And this guy has got to play his best hockey that he's played in quite some time and be consistent from a production standpoint. You're going to get the effort from Braden Shen. I don't worry about that. And, you know, now he'll get an opportunity. He's going to play with, you know, a little more effective offensive players. You know, getting to play with Jake Neighbors, I always felt like, you know, that's a good winger for Braden Shen, just in terms of how their games maybe complement one another. But this is a huge opportunity for Shen. I mean, 6 weeks is a long time. And I don't see anybody else walking through that door right now to save the day. So you don't have your number one player, your number one center, the guy who has the puck on his stick more than anybody else on the team over the course of the game. He can kill penalties. He drives the power play. And this is going to be a big miss, but it's an opportunity, I think, that the Blues will look at guys like Shen, certainly Kyrou and Buchnevich. These guys will need to step up offensively. But I think they're up for the challenge. I think they know they have a team that's deep enough to be able to compete even without Robert Thomas. Get Texier back in the lineup. Did you notice how heavy his stick was last night? Now, this guy competes, and it's not with a growl on his face, and he's not dropping the gloves, and he's not running guys through the wall. But he is the definition of having a heavy stick and competing on the puck without making the Don Cherry Rock'em Sock'em videos. And nobody will talk about his compete level. They'll talk about when he scores. They'll talk about when he makes plays, his creativity with the puck. But nobody's going to talk about his heavy stick. Nobody's going to talk about his compete. Good skater, too. Listen, if you've been listening to me, I've been talking about Texier since the day the Blues got him. When they made that deal with Columbus to bring him over here, I had teams reaching out being like, I absolutely love this guy. We wanted him. He was high on our list. I was like, damn. Alexander Texier. Great release, great shot, great goal, great play all around last night. As the Blues go into Toronto, they win the game 5-1. Toronto, I don't know what's going on with them. That's back-to-back losses now against Columbus and St. Louis. I was on Nick Kiprio's show yesterday and Justin Bourne. They do a great television show on Sportsnet up in Toronto. The interview was basically a foreshadow to the entire game in terms of how it played out. They asked some great questions, man. Talked about Ryan Suter, who played 25 minutes plus again last night. This guy, does he even sweat? Does he sweat? I need someone to check that out for me. Is Ryan Suter exerting any energy during the game? He makes everything look so effortless. He makes everything look easy. He'll take the odd penalty here and there. But if you watch him closely, he'll whack guys. He'll cross-check guys. I remember years ago when Suter was young playing in Nashville, and he and Weber, were a pairing that got a lot of attention in the NHL. And as we were talking to Brad Boyes, actually, who scored 76 goals over a 2-year span here in St. Louis, including a 43-goal season. Remember Boise? How good was he? Love Boise. He could shoot the puck, man. Great one-timer on the power play. Left circle. He was like Stamkos before Stamkos. Ovi's office. Brad Boyes scored a ton of goals over there. Could really shoot the puck. I mean, great shot. But I remember talking to him about the difference between Suter and Weber, and he told me years ago, he was like, I have a harder time playing against Suter. His stick is so heavy. He's strong. And I know Shea Weber is strong too. But people focus more on Weber's offensive side of the game because he had such an incredible shot that so much focus was on his shooting ability. So Ryan Suter now with the Blues, man, he's settled down Parayko. Parayko looked like he's trying to make that Four Nations team last night. I mean, he's just galloping up and down the ice. Played maybe his best game of the season, Colton Parayko. He had like 7 block shots to Toronto, keeping the track of the blocks and the hits. And it's not just them. It's like certain buildings. You may get the benefit of the doubt, but I think the Blues had like 24 block shots last night that they were credited with. And I think Toronto had like 80-something shot attempts. They did have 41 shots on goal, and Jordan Binnington, spectacular, played with that swag. He wanted to put on a good performance last night. Obviously playing with a heavy heart with his grandfather passing away, so we're thinking of you, Jordan, John, the entire Binnington family, all of you playing with a heavy heart last night, man. Love the Binningtons. But he wanted to go into Toronto, where he's from. Sure, he had friends and family in the house. Put on a good performance, but solidify himself as the number 1 goaltender for Hockey Canada coming up in the Four Nations, that made-up international tournament. It's not the Olympics. It's not the World Cup. It's not the World Championship. It's just the Four Nations. And not everybody's invited. apparently. Just 4 countries, but it's fine. It's better than nothing. I'm not going to chirp it. The NHL is trying. We're going to get back to the Olympics, and I will watch every second of every game. Can't wait. Might even look to get out to some of those games in Boston, possibly, if we can get away. So that's where we're at. Brian Burke coming up. We'll talk with Jamal Mayers also coming up here on the show. He'll join me next. First Community, proud sponsor of what we do here on Hockey Sense. I want to give a shout out to First Community because they sponsor the Blues Hall of Fame. Of course, and listen, I'm a proud member of the Hall of Fame committee, the voting committee for the Blues Hall of Fame. So I take that very serious. Great class going in 2025 with Curtis Joseph headlining it. You have Jimmy Roberts, who is the first ever drafted skater in the history of the Blues. You have Jimmy going in. They surprised his wife. They got her to the game the other night. Did you see that with Judy? I interviewed her during the game on FanDuel Sports Network, and the plan was to have her come down there. Now, she wasn't planning to go to the game. She actually had Domino's that night. They had a hard time getting her to get out of her Domino's commitment, but they brought her down there with her daughter, Corey, and they were surprised on the Jumbotron to learn that Jimmy Roberts was going into the class of 25. They had all the alumni in there, including Hall of Famers Chris Pronger and Al McInnes, who are very close with Jimmy Roberts. And it was really cool. So I talked to her live on camera, maybe 45 seconds after she found out. So we got the raw reaction. So great to see Jimmy Roberts going in, who coached here for a long time, plus he played here for 5 years. First drafted skater ever in Blues history. And then Wayne Babbage, who was the first player in Blues history to ever have a 50-goal season. Scored 54 one year, tore up his shoulder in a fight, and he was really never the same player. I remember hearing stories about him when I was young, about Wayne Babbage, because he had a brother, Dave Babbage, too. But Wayne Babbage, what a great goal scorer he was, how tough he was. And but that he had a shoulder injury, and he never recovered. You know, that was back in the day where if you had a knee injury, you had a shoulder injury, certain types of injuries, you just didn't come back and ever be the player that you were prior to going down with that injury. It really impacted your entire career. Now we see guys come back stronger than ever. You see Oscar Sundqvist last night coming off of that ACL? I mean, he makes a difference too. Just knows how to play the professional game, understands time and score, where to put pucks, getting pucks out, winning battles, getting pucks in. It's what you want as a coach. You want Oscar Sundqvist in the lineup. They're going to have some decisions to make, although one guy keeps getting hurt. Every time somebody comes out or comes back, another guy gets hurt. Let's hope that doesn't continue. But First Community, proud sponsor of the Blues Hall of Fame, including this year, January 24th at the MAC. They've got so much going on, though, at First Community. And I always talk about the Little Blues. We'll get into that later on in the show. But the best-kept holiday secret, according to Forbes, the average credit rate over 28%. Are you kidding me? So whether you know it or not, you may be paying that much. So check that out. The rate for the card in your wallet may have gone up, but you didn't even realize it. They don't always tell you. So it's easy to miss stuff like that. But here's the thing. You don't have to pay that kind of rate. You don't have to. So I'm letting you on the best-kept secret at First Community. That Platinum Visa with a rate of 7.9%. And that's right, 7.9%. No annual fee. No fee to transfer your balance. You're not going to find that anywhere else, people. I promise you that. FirstCommunity.com. Check it out and check it out today. All right, Four Hands Brewing Company. They've got all the great locations. Chesterfield, Kirkwood, downtown St. Louis, 1220 South 8th Street. That Mango Lemonade Hard Seltzer is now out on the shelves. Check it out. The Chemistry Podcast, Mango Lemonade Hard Seltzer. Get some and get some today. You can get them at Schnucks, any grocery store, any place you find your Four Hands Brewing Company products. They are everywhere. So you won't miss it no matter where you go. Send me a picture of it. Let me see you enjoying yourself this weekend drinking a Cam and Strick Mango Lemonade and Hard Seltzer from Four Hands Brewing Company. Check out the food from Peacemaker in Kirkwood and downtown, as well as the food from High Point out there in Chesterfield, Four Hands Brewing Company. Dirt Cheap Fun, your one-stop party shop. Download that app and do it today. They've got so many great deals, they call them steals. Great deals, they call them steals. And you can do curbside assistance. A lot of their locations have drive-through, so you don't even have to get out of your car. It's that simple. They are the absolute best. Don't sleep on their party supplies. If you're having Halloween parties, anything else going on, Thanksgiving around the corner, they got everything you need, all the paper goods, everything else. Great decorations, everything. Dirt cheap, fun, your one-stop party shop. Lordo's Diamonds. Get that special someone in your life, something special. Are you looking to pop the question? Are you? This holiday season, are you looking to pop the question? Do it at Lordo's Diamonds. Mike and Jimmy will take the best care of you. Nobody does it better than Mike and Jimmy Lordo. They are the absolute best in the engagement ring industry and everything else. So if you have a budget for $50,000 or $500, they will find something perfect for you over there at Lordo's Diamonds. Blue Note Roofing. Hey, Dave, our boy, Novak, is going to be in studio with us later on in the show. So stick around. We'll talk a little hockey with him, and he'll tell us about Blue Note Roofing. Gutters, siding, soffit fascia, everything. Roofing. They do it all. Look for that yellow truck with the blue notes all over it. David Novak, my main man from Blue Note Roofing, will join us in studio coming up later in the show. Brian Burke is to come. We've got Jamal Mayers on the way. Don't go anywhere. I'm Andy Strickland. This is Hockey Sense, brought to you by First Community. We're live at the Half Coast Studios, our Friday tradition. Don't go anywhere. All right, back here on Hockey Sense, brought to you by First Community. Sign your son or daughter up for Little Blues, the best program in St. Louis to teach your son or daughter how to skate and fall in love with the game. Hey, don't go spend thousands and thousands of dollars unless you know that they want to do it. This is a great introductory program to see if your son or daughter has interest in playing hockey. I'm sure they'll love it. Great instruction, and it's a lot of fun out there. Jamal Mayers joins us live from Vegas. We're going worldwide. Brian Burke to come later in the program as well. What's up, Jammer?
How we doing?
How are you doing?
I'm doing well.
Are you a gambler?
Not at all. No.
So, like, what will you do in Vegas when you're by yourself? Like, your wife's not with you, so it's not like you're looking to maybe hit up shows and stuff like that. I guess you could be, but what would interest you in Vegas this time of year by yourself?
Well, I'm kind of a foodie, so I'll try to seek out a good restaurant and get a good dinner in tonight. But yeah, I'm not really into the gambling thing, so I don't know. Not much for me to do.
You never played in Vegas, did you?
Never did.
Yeah.
It'll be my first time at the rink tomorrow.
Wow. Oh my God, I've been there a bunch. Jamal, you're gonna love it, man. It's an experience. It's unique. It's different than really any other rink experience you're gonna get. And I will say, every city brings their own type of experience, right? I mean, there's nothing like playing in Montreal. I'd imagine you would say Toronto obviously brings another experience on a Saturday night. Chicago has one of the most electric experiences when the team obviously is on top of the world like they were when you were there. That had to be a lot of fun to play in Chicago. But Vegas is different, which is cool.
Yeah, that's what I hear. I'm looking forward to it. It's supposed to be quite the spectacular show, and as it should be, it's Vegas. So
I know you did the San Jose LA game last night. That's kind of an interesting match. Where do you see LA as the season progresses? Are they a team that's good enough to get into the playoffs?
I think I'll say this. I think they're a heavy team. I'm not sure they're good enough to make the playoffs, but I think if they get in, they're going to be very dangerous. They're heavy. They play direct. They're veteran laden. They could do a lot of damage if they get in, just the way that they play.
Yeah, I'll be interested. San Jose, it's just another transition year for them, right? I mean, they're in complete rebuild mode, right?
Yeah, it's really tough start to not have a win in your first 7 games it's tough. It's tough. There's no question that they're rebuilding and they're changing things. And I think their coach has done a great job Warsofsky has done a good job of like changing the culture of compete that's expected in the standard they want to have. But they just don't have enough offense with Macklin out. You really notice like they've got everybody slotted above where they should be. So, it's really not fair to the roster because they are working hard, but either they're shooting themselves in the foot every night or they're taking ill-advised penalties at the wrong time, or they get down by 3 in the first 10 minutes, like last night, come back still not enough.
Yeah, it's amazing that you lose an 18-year-old kid and it would have that much impact on your roster. But as we talked about a few weeks ago, he's probably their best player and obviously the first overall pick for a reason. And we've only seen him play one game, so hopefully he gets back in there. How's Will Smith looked? And I want to ask you about Luke Cunnin, the St. Louis kid, before we move on.
Yeah, I think Will Smith is. It's going to take time. He's more of a player that has to have the puck, and he's not going to wow you with his speed or his physicality necessarily. It's more of his smarts and his hockey IQ and his ability to make plays. So I think it's going to take longer for him to find his groove, which he played well in the game. He didn't play last night, but the game before that, he played well, created chances, but he took two ill-advised penalties. They scored on one of them. And so I think they have a plan for how much he's going to play. And he's not going to be an everyday guy, but that's going to be good for him.
Yeah.
He's going to figure it out. It's just going to take him. I think he'll hit his stride halfway through the season.
All right. Looking forward to that. Love watching him with the U.S. program. I mean, electric player at the U.S. program, certainly at Boston College. You get these guys to come out. Hey, listen, why would you stay in school? That's the way I look at it, although I understand why some kids make that decision. But, he's in the NHL, he's making money, and he's getting his feet wet right now. It's going to be the experiences he's getting right now will help him down the road. There's no question about that. What about Luke Cunnin, the St. Louis kid? He's just trying to find his way with a team that's in rebuild that's not very good, which isn't always easy to do. Are you liking what you're seeing from him? He works his butt off.
I've been very impressed with his leadership skills. So he plays the game the right way. He's playing in the bottom six on the fourth line some nights. He might be elevated to the third line. He plays in all situations, plays in the power play, penalty kill. He sticks up for his teammates. He goes to the net hard. He's a consummate pro. And so not knowing much about him as a player other than doing these games, I've been very impressed.
I hope a team looks at him as a guy they can bring on at the trade deadline, a playoff team, because I think he could help a playoff team, and that would certainly help him to play on a more competitive team. But he's a guy, a sneaky player that's out there that won't create headlines and get a lot of attention. But if I'm a playoff team looking to add some depth to my bottom six and a guy who can chip in offensively and do all those other things you're talking about, he's a guy that I would identify. Listen, Alexander Ovechkin, the chase continues. What's your reaction when you see him score empty netters? I mean, it is what it is. He's out there. He's going to score a lot of them, but I don't want to see him catch Gretzky with just empty netters. I asked Burke the over-under for him this year, and I'm not going to share that right now because people haven't heard the interview yet, but what do you think it is for Ovi? How many goals is he going to score this year, you think?
I don't think he gets to 30 this year. I think it's going to take 2 years. I think he's going to get between 22 and 28, and he'll do it next year.
So he will get to 20.
He'll get to 20.
Yeah.
He started slow last year and ended up with how many? 36?
Something, yeah. I mean, and that's exactly, can that happen 2 years in a row? Like, I mean, it certainly can. Sometimes in Jamal, it's human nature. You watch them play, they're like trying to force the puck to them, and I think that's what happens early. I think when you allow it to happen naturally, then it may end up creating more goal-scoring chances for him versus trying to force it to him.
Yeah, you're right. It's also not a good idea for us prognosticators to bet against Hall of Famers. It's my practice not to do that. I think there's so much pride for him to be a Russian player, to do this as a Russian. Mm-hmm. He'll be on their money at some point. Like this means so much more to him, I believe, as a Russian player, that he is going to find a way to get it done.
Yeah. What do you think? On the Russian money, there's no better honor than that. Listen, he's going to have a statue. There's going to be a statue of a Russian player in the United States Capitol, Jamal, outside of that building.
That's pretty great. Pretty cool.
The Blues won a big game last night in Toronto. The sky is falling now in Toronto. You got Chief. being hard on guys like Austin Matthews last night and Marner when those guys came off. Nylander turned the puck over on Neighbor's goal right inside the blue line. Yeah, these guys are so creative with the puck, and they've always played a certain way. Can he expect them to change? Is that wise for him to try to get them to kind of get in their grill? And I don't want to say he's asking them to be something that they're not, because he's not, but he's trying to get them to establish new habits that relate to winning hockey. How do you think that goes over with these guys?
Well, either they do it or they don't. I mean, the way I look at it is they have a decision to make. They're making more money than they know what to do with. They're respected around the league for how good they are. And the final piece to me is winning. So they're going to have to sacrifice. I think it's going to be a uncomfortable situation for them for half the season. And I think that because Matthews is willing to be the leader he is and accept that criticism, accept that coaching, everyone else will have to fall in line. And so I think they'll get there. I think Chief has to stay true to what he believes works. And they have to sink into that discomfort as players. And I think that if you saw the quotes from Brad Marchand about his criticism when he got scolded by Montgomery, that's what leadership is. Accepting the criticism, owning it, being the voice for the rest of the team to realize that can't happen. The standard is higher for the group, and everyone is accountable. And I think that that's what winning teams have to have.
I love seeing coaches do this again, because it used to be the norm. Like, coaches were hard, and coaches would yell at players. Coaches would get in your face. We just had Mike Keenan on. I mean, the stories. I mean, he wouldn't even be able to. They wouldn't even let him in the rink nowadays, Jamal. Some of these stories that I hear from him. And I'm not saying the way he did it was always the right way either, but coaches need to be allowed to coach. Now, I will say this in terms of Chief, every time he does that, it just creates, just an exorbitant amount of drama, right, in throughout Ontario and in Toronto and the hockey world. Does he need to change from that standpoint and find a way to be careful and maybe do it behind closed doors? Or, like you said, you just kind of have to stay true to who you are?
No, he's not going to change. And you know what? He shouldn't. I think that you just figure out a way to cleverly not put the shine on it after the game, but he's got to continue to do what he does well. And he's there for a reason. They brought him in for him to be himself, for him to do what he believes and thinks that will work. And I think that if you stay the course and this team doesn't get past the second round, then you're wasting the prime years of a lot of these guys' careers. So this is what winning's supposed to look like. It's supposed to be uncomfortable.
Yeah. And
if they basically squeak in, but they're a more complete team, then they've made steps in the right direction.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I agree with you. And I love Marchand's comments, like you said, and I love what Jim Montgomery did too. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I made a comment like, hey, you can't just do it to the 19, 20, 21-year-old, the 25-year-old fourth liner. Like, you better do it you better hold the best players to the same level of accountability. I think that's what brings the team together. I think that's where the rest of the guys appreciate that, correct?
Especially when he owns it like he did, right? Because he could have clapped back or said, for all the good that I do, all that I create,
right,
he's really going to get on me for one turnover. Really, he didn't do that. He owned it. Mm-hmm. And whether or not he believes that in his heart, that's what leaders do sometimes. They have to eat it for the betterment of the group, to allow the coach to be the coach.
And to put the fire out.
Put the fire out, own it, and then, everybody recognizes it and we move on. Mm-hmm. Like, they'll never talk about it again.
No.
It happened in the moment, and that's how it should work.
Yeah, no, he put the fire out. I loved it. So it is. They turn the page, now they move on. Broberg and Holloway returned to Canada for the first time. They scored the first two goals, Jamal. And that gets everyone talking, right? in Toronto. It's like Broberg scores and Holloway scores. This Broberg, man, there's one. I said earlier on the show, there's good players who get hot and play out. But this guy is an elite level player. You look at the way he skates, how he defends. I would imagine he'll be a big part of Sweden coming up in the Four Nations. And he's 23, Jamal. We forget how young he is because he just got here, but he's 23. He's just learning. He hadn't even played 100 games in the NHL yet.
Amazing.
Where's this guy going to be at 27, 28?
Oh, my. He very well could be a Norris Trophy candidate. I mean, this guy is going to have 60 to 65 points this year. I mean, he plays in all situations. It's amazing to me that they were able to get him.
Oh, my God. I said the same thing, Jamal. How does Edmonton not get ahead of this? They drafted him in the top 10, 8th overall, and let him go.
I know. I thought they would find a way to keep him. I really did. I thought they would have to let Holloway go, but I thought that they would find a way to keep Broberg. You have to. The only way you get these players of that caliber is drafting them.
Yeah,
that's the only way you get them.
You're stealing the words. That's exactly what I said in our opening segment. It's like, only so many teams can get these top 10 picks and get their hands on players like that. And that's how you get them. And then at 23, you just let them walk. You get a second and third round pick. They got a prospect, Paul Fisher, who's at Notre Dame right now, but he's not an A-level prospect by any means. So, I mean, potentially the steal of the decade, really. We're seeing it before our own eyes. And Jordan Kyrou had a hell of a game last night, too. He was dishing everywhere, played with a ton of energy. You don't have Robert Thomas right now. He's going to be out for 6 weeks, so I want to get your take on that because that's a huge blow for the Blues. But this is where guys like Kyrou and Buchnevich, Shen, who now gets elevated up the lineup, man, these guys have to step up, right?
They do. I think that, you know what, the positive is that it's going to give guys another opportunity they've been complaining about having. So now they get to have that opportunity. And so that's something that coaches always talk about is, all right, you've been wondering why you didn't get more ice, you didn't play more, and now is your chance to step up. So, and that's what good teams will do. And so will they miss him? Absolutely. Plays and does so much and creates so much and plays against other teams' top centers as well. And it's going to be incumbent upon the entire group. It's going to be a group effort. Thomas is an elite all-star player. So it's going to take a group effort to kind of withstand his absence.
Yeah. And Kyrou, I know you were back in Toronto, but when he plays with that level of enthusiasm and intensity, he can dominate a game. You want to see that on a consistent basis from him. I know he can do it, but it can't be just when you go back to Toronto. You know what I mean? He's got to find that level on a more consistent basis. I really truly believe he can.
Yeah, it's just a matter of, he's still finding his game. He's still figuring out the balance of responsible play and when do I take chances? How long can I hold on to the puck? When am I a shooter? Can I create? He's still finding that. So the most important thing is the consistent effort. What he should be telling himself is, I got to fly. I got to fly every night. Yeah. If I'm skating, then good things are going to happen.
Yeah, his assist on Broberg's goal. I mean, he looked like he's been training with Jamal Mayers at 6 o'clock in the morning, 2 days a week. You know what I mean?
Yeah, okay.
He's coming up the wall and down the wall, punch turn. Beautiful play, and that's the work these guys put in the summer too. You watch that highlight. That is what these guys are doing in the summer in preparation for the season, and they've been doing it for years. So it comes in handy, kids, as you see. Put the work in, and then you get the results. Happy birthday to you! You just celebrated your 50th birthday, Jamal Mayers. How'd you celebrate?
Crazy. Well, I was in the road. I was in LA, so I decided to take myself to dinner, and then I went to a comedy show at the Laugh Factory, which was fun. And yeah, we'll celebrate next month with the dinner with some friends, Natalie and some friends. So a little bit strange to be on the road and not be home, but You know, it was a weird one for me. I don't know. I was 40 and 30 was cool. 40 was cool. This 50 number is kind of messing with my head.
Yeah, that's a tough one. That's a tough one. But you know what? Hey, 50's the new 40, man. So you got to remember that. And you look
There you
young.
go.
You look young. Then they never know you're 50.
That's
So,
right.
hey, who brings you here on Hockey Sense each and every week, Jamal?
Well, one of the companies is obviously Dobbs Tire and Auto Centers, and Dobbs is locally owned, family owned. They have been in business since 1976. No matter what you drive, a car, light truck, van, SUV, CV, hybrid, or EV, Dobbs has what it takes to experience technology, state of the art diagnostics to service your vehicle right. 42 store locations, the most in town. They'll get your vehicle in, up, fixed, and out the same day. Go to Dobbs.com for more.
And what else you have?
Well, where are you going to go eat? Got to think about that.
There you go.
Bartolino's has a new restaurant. Got to go check it out.
Where is it?
It's what's the address? Oh,
I'll look it up.
Look it up. It looks beautiful. Can't wait to go. Actually that's where we're having my birthday celebration on November 17th. It's going to be unbelievable. They have 5 restaurants now, and they forged so many lasting relationships with their customers. Their family model: cook good food, serve plenty. 50 plus years in business, only 2 places to dine: at home or at one of Bartolino's family restaurants.
There you go. We'll get to Bartolino's. And happy birthday, man. That's a great number. And I know it's tough because you're away from the family and all that, but you will celebrate when you get back. And enjoy Vegas, man. You're going to have a great time taking in that game.
Hold on. You're not going to get away with this. I gotta say congrats to Ty and his game-winning goal, shootout goal. Are you kidding me? And he got it on video. I mean, I don't know if there's many bigger goals than that he can score. Make sure you tell him congrats for me.
I will. To clinch the tournament too, right? In the championship game. So that was yeah, you got to tell Kopitar. You should have told Kopitar last night that you saw the highlight of his team losing. We played against Kopitar's team, but
oh really?
Yeah, it was Kopitar's team who we played against. So his son, obviously, he wasn't there, but no, great, man. It's always, as you know, man, it's always fun to win a tournament, you know, but to win it in that fashion, you won't get too many opportunities to do that. So that was a lot of fun, and I wasn't there because I was working Blues games here in St. Louis, and so that was difficult, but a lot of people were sending videos, so it was great to be able to kind of like take in the moment without being there, you know. So
absolutely awesome, love to see it.
All right, Jammer, appreciate it, man. We'll talk here shortly.
Take care.
Okay, that's Jamal Mayers, former Stanley Cup champ. Arco Construction taking St. Louis hockey to the next level, one ice rink at a time. Check out that beautiful Centene Community Ice Center, and the new rink in Chesterfield as well, the Maryville University Ice Rink. They built Putt Shack, they built Top Golf, so they bring the fun to St. Louis. Jeff Cook, John Comblos, all the great people over there at Arco Construction, taking St. Louis to the next level, one ice rink at a time. All right, Hockey Sense brought to you by First Community, each and every week, live from the Half Coast Studios. Love everything First Community does, including that Little Blues program. We'll fill you in with that coming up in just a few minutes. David Novak from Blue Note Roofing, one of our favorite sponsors here on Hockey Sense and the Cam and Strick podcast. Huge Blues fan. What's new in the roofing industry? You know you need some help with your roof. I got the guy for you. He joins me next here on Hockey Sense. All right, back here on Hockey Sense. Great to have you with us. As always, Brian Burke, longtime NHL executive. Great to have you with us, Burke. What are you doing now? Are you still doing stuff with the PWHL? Are you done with that? What's on the docket for you now?
I am the executive director of the PWHL-PA, and it's my second year. And my last year, when I took the job, I told the women that they had to have a woman do this after 2 years.
Okay. So this is your last year. Then you're done.
Yep, I'm done. I'm not sure what I'll do after that.
Hey, who did that painting behind you with the tie undone?
I'm not sure the artist's name, but I did it. I was the Grand Marshal of St. Patrick's Day Parade, and this gentleman, I should know his name, did this painting, which I love, actually.
I love it too, man. It's a great painting. So, listen, you say you don't know what you're going to do. Could you see yourself getting back into the NHL? Would you want to get back with the team, or are those days long? Okay, good.
Yeah, they might be long gone, but I don't know yet.
Hey, listen, Lou Lamoriello, your guy, man, he's in his 80s. He's 81. I mean, and he's still sharp, man. The Islanders were just here. I had a chance to see him when they were here. He made us go on forever, Burke.
He's a sharp guy. I owe him a lot, obviously. He was instrumental in my life, so I owe Lou a lot.
Yeah. You're so good on television. Would that be something that could be on the cards? And did you regret leaving TV to go to Pittsburgh? You think that was a good decision for you?
Well, it might have cost me a career in broadcasting because I haven't gotten to that. I got a nibble after that from Sportsnet, but they decided not to bring me back. But no, I treasured and valued my time in Pittsburgh. I viewed it as it might have cost me a broadcasting career, but I loved Pittsburgh. I love living there. I love working there. So no, it's great.
Where are you living now?
In Toronto.
Okay. Yeah, so St. Louis is there tonight. Toronto is, it's interesting. Craig Berube, like if you were to talk to Chief before he took the job, what kind of advice would you give him coaching in that market? Because, listen, and I got to know Chief very well with his time here in St. Louis. Still keep in touch with him. It's a different ball game, as you know, as well as anybody. So what's he in store for working there?
Well, I have not talked to him. I've texted with him and congratulated him. I really like Chief. I think he's a real good guy and a good coach. But I give the same advice I give Brad Chilibik. It's the volume is way higher, turned up way higher, and it's much more noise, much more background noise. The key to coaching or working or being a GM in Toronto is ignore the white noise, ignore the background noise, just ignore it.
You know, Roman Polak, when he played there, and obviously played here before that, like he told me he felt more pressure playing in St. Louis than he did in Toronto. He said, listen, the guys aren't listening to what's going on Sports Talk Radio. The team wasn't as competitive at the time in Toronto as they were in St. Louis. So when you feel that pressure from the ownership and from management, the coaching staff every day, he said, listen, that outweighs any type of media noise. So I thought it was interesting the way he put that, you know?
Yeah, I think there's a great deal of inherent pressure in a Canadian market, and obviously Toronto's the biggest. So to give you some scale, when I worked for the Calgary Flames on a Saturday night, we had a home game, hockey night in Canada. There would be 30, maybe 35 people in the room after the game, maybe 40 if it was another Canadian team. There was 100 people in the room after a game in Toronto on Tuesday night against Columbus. So it's much more noise, much more scale. It's just a bigger production, and so you have to ignore it.
Hey, when do you feel like you get a good read on a team? Is it 20 games into the season? Is it 30 games into the season? Do you feel like you know now? Yeah.
Yeah, U.S. Thanksgiving for me.
Okay. So a team like Florida, do you even like read into where they're at right now? I mean, listen, you win a Stanley Cup. There's so much that goes into an off season. They're going to be fine, right? I mean, I know they lost to Minnesota. Everyone's talking about their losses, you know, versus the wins. They've had some injuries. What are you seeing from the Florida Panthers right now in terms of just, you know, where they're at in terms of their ability to compete once again?
Well, repeating is very difficult because psychologically you've won a cup, you've climbed Mount Everest, and there's a party time that comes after it. It's really hard to repeat. So like what Tampa Bay did a couple years ago, I really respect that. I think it's really hard to repeat, especially where there's 5 or 6 elite teams in the league. So I think they're in for a tough time in terms of doing it again.
Hey, can you put a number on the value for a guy like Sam Bennett? So important to that team. Like, how do you determine a good comp for him? It can't be just on stats, right?
No, what Sam does, he's a leader and he's tough. Every year, and a big part of Florida's success was they brought back fighting and playing tough. They made it popular again. And it's a league-wide ripple effect, which I think is great, by the way. But Sam is, he's a mean, tough guy on top of being a really good hockey player. So I don't talk about comparables, though. Yeah, once I offered my opinion on a comparable, and really a player was really sour at me for suggesting he wasn't worth more. So I stay out of that now.
Is he a max guy, though? Like, is he an 8-year guy?
I don't know.
Yeah. Somebody probably would. I mean, he gets into the open market, right? I mean, that's the only way to get some of these guys signed nowadays, right?
Yeah, well, he's 8 years if he stays.
Yeah. Listen, Doug Armstrong just gave Jake Neighbors a bridge deal. He gave him a 2-year deal. Dylan Gunther gets a 8-year contract extension. I guess every different organization, or every organization's a little bit different in terms of where they're at. Where do you stand on a bridge deal versus giving these kids, max deals coming out of entry level?
So people are betting on max deals because they think the salary cap will keep going up. So the deals get more attractive over time. That's not necessarily true, though. There's a big fallacy there. I'm pretty sure that Doug Armstrong has never had a buyout in his career.
Hasn't.
Never bought a player out, which is remarkable because we all make mistakes. And some of these 8-year deals are going to really bite teams in the ass. They already are.
Yeah. I mean, especially when you're giving them at 28, 29, right? And they take them to 36, 37. But some of these GMs, and I don't know if you ever looked at it like this, they say, well, what does it matter because I'm not going to be here anyway, so they're just looking in the short term. Is that fair to an organization, to an owner?
No. No, if you're thinking like that, you're not. Part of your job is to do what's right for the owner, too. So the notion that this will be someone else's problem, I've never understood that. I never liked it. I would never agree to run a team like that. What do I care what kind of a mess I leave? It would be someone else's problem? That's not fair to your owner.
Yeah, because getting back to the Islanders, Peter Engvall, he gets a 7-year deal, and I know a lot of people were wondering, hey, is this guy a 7-year player? You put him on waivers a year into the contract. Like facing an owner as a general manager, that's got to be difficult in that type of situation, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a very unpleasant conversation where you say, look, we messed up. It's not a small screw-up. You mess up on a 6 or 7-year deal, the guy ends up in the minors or you buy him out, that's an unpleasant conversation with your GM, with your owner. Mm-hmm. And the fact of the matter is you're in a hard cap system. You can't waste money if you can possibly avoid it.
You ever sign a guy where you knew it was a mistake right off the bat? Year one?
No.
How many buyouts did you have?
Oh, a few. A few guys. I made mistakes. What Army has done there is remarkable. I made a few mistakes, and then again, it's an unpleasant conversation, and it's a hard cap. Mm-hmm. Every mistake you make, every buyout, costs you your ability to compete. You can't spend that money on a different player.
Listen, Ryan Suter signs a contract here for under $1 million, and he's fit in nicely, Burke. I mean, he's not the player that he once was, but he just doesn't overextend himself. He doesn't make mistakes. He's good to play with a young player or even a established player like a Colton Parayko, who he's playing with now. You got Max Pacioretty, under $1 million. These are bargain deals that virtually have no risk for a general manager. I mean, if I'm a GM, I'm trying to find these guys who were established players. I mean, I know Pacioretty's coming off of an injury, but what's the risk of signing a guy who can still play, who knows how to play, who can maybe, help a team? I mean, these are great contracts. Am I wrong?
No, you're right. But you have to go to camp, like some of these guys, like Max Pacioretty had to go to camp to get his deal. And so the player has to earn it. And it is low risk of that amount, but it's around $1 million doesn't count if you send a player down, it's not a cap hit. So that's a safe bet. Ryan Suter played for me in the Olympics. I had him. He's a really good guy. He's a smart player. He's a really veteran guy, makes really intelligent plays.
Yeah.
I thought it was a great signing.
Really was. And that was before the whole offer sheet situation. And Philip Broberg's been great here in St. Louis. They've got Holloway also. How much of those moves impacted Edmonton, let alone St. Louis?
Well, I think it was pretty. You got to look at it as a smart move by the Army, putting 2 offer sheets on the same day, two different guys, same day, same organization, and basically forcing Edmonton not to be able to match in their view. But I think it was really smart. I'm not as sold on either of those players being a long-term star, but I think they're good additions.
Yeah. I mean, the way you just look at the team and how they fit in. I mean, Broberg's playing 22, 23 minutes now. I mean, so, there's a role for him to have an impact. And Holloway, too,
There's some risk there, though. They took a risk on that much or giving those kind of minutes. You never played those kind of minutes before. That's just good. That's just good jamming. Saying, okay, I'm going to project this guy. Broberg played, 8 minutes, played in the minors, played 10 minutes, and now all of a sudden he's playing 24. That's good projection by the GM.
How long does it take for a general manager to really get comfortable? I mean, listen, Army's he's gonna be here beyond his he's got 2 more years as a GM, then he's going to slide in as a president role. You're one of the first ones to do that, to be a president of hockey operations and have a general manager work under you, but you were still heavily involved in Calgary. Tell me about that dynamic. They're going to have Alexander Steen here as the general manager. We've seen other teams now do that a little bit. Do you like that? When you were working as a president, you had Brad underneath you in Calgary. Is that a good situation for an organization?
I think it's very helpful to a young GM, especially that was Brad's first job as a GM. He was an assistant GM in Arizona before that.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's very helpful to have a veteran presence at your side, or guiding you, saying this is a bad idea, don't do that, don't do this. But I didn't interfere much. I think if you ask Tree, he'll say Brian Burke was a great asset to me in terms of giving guidance or not interfering. Same thing I think that actually would say about me in Pittsburgh. So I think there's a role there, particularly with the rookie GM. I think the veteran presence is useful.
Yeah, because you have Jeff Gorton doing it right now, obviously, in Montreal. You have Jim Rutherford in Vancouver. There's different dynamics around the league, but I guess that's the important thing, right? When you're the president, you got to let the GM kind of sink or swim. Is that the best way to put it?
You don't want him to sink, but you want to help him swim. That's, I think, the biggest thing. We're saying, look, we start talking about a concept like it's an evolving thing, a trade, or you're going to do a deal. And they say, so the GM will come to me, Tree will come to me and say, I'm thinking of getting Andy Strickland.
Mm-hmm.
And be like, look, I think it's a really bad idea. It's a poor fit. And I would kibosh the idea. What you don't want to get to is at the end of the process where the GM comes to you and says, I want to make this deal, and you say no. You might as well start looking for a new GM. So the time to say no is early on in the process. Say, look, I don't think he's a good fit. I don't think it makes much sense. Not the direction we want to go. Let's look somewhere else.
Mm-hmm. Hey, if you're a general manager and your team's gotten off to a slow start, maybe in a normal situation you want to give him some time, but when a guy like Joel Quenneville's hanging out there, does that expedite the potential process of moving on and bringing him in? And what would be a good fit for Joel? And if you're running an organization, would you have any concerns about bringing him in? I mean, this guy's been one of the best coaches, certainly of his generation and in NHL history. Would you have any issue bringing him in?
No, none. I think he's a great coach. I mean, I'll make full disclosure. I gave him his first job. I hired him to coach in the American League right before I left Hartford. So I go way back with Queenie. I think he's the top coach, the top guy. And it's not comfortable when you have a guy like him sitting out there. Remember when Glenn Sather, after my first year in Vancouver, Glenn Sather left Edmonton. It was like a great white shark off the beach. I'm like, okay, I'm in trouble here. Unfortunately, it didn't cost me my job at that point in time. But I was sure nervous about it. And I'd be nervous if I were any other coach off to a slow start.
Yeah. I sat down with Joel a few months ago. I mean, listen, this guy is eager to get back in. I'm glad the league has now, opened the door, and I'm curious to know where he goes. I would imagine he's going to want to go to a team that has a chance to win. Typically, those teams aren't looking to change their coaches, but we'll see how that plays out. Hey, with the situation in Washington with Ovechkin, do you just kind of let that play out? I mean, what if he scores 10 goals this year, Berkey, and you got to come back and all of a sudden the hype continues into next season? Does that start to weigh on our organization, or he's just been such a great player for so long, you just kind of let it go?
I just thought, first off, he's not going to score 10. He's gonna get back. He had a slow start last year also. Mm-hmm. But he's a great player. He's a great guy. Ovi's a wonderful human being. He's been great for our league. Everyone wants him to break Wayne's record. They're stuck with this situation. They're overpassing the puck to him, and that's to be expected. No, I think you just ride that out and wait till he gets the record and then see what happens.
Yeah. So he'll get 20, right? I mean, this guy gets... Yeah. Yeah, no doubt.
He'll get 30. He'll get 30 this year, I bet.
Okay. Yeah, he got the empty netter last night, so... That'll sometimes get him going. Obviously, you get some of those easy ones. Hey, the Four Nations tournament, curious your opinion on it. I mean, listen, people are going to watch. It doesn't include all the federations, and certainly there's going to be a lot of great players who are participating in it. Do you find players are overwhelmingly thinking about trying to earn a spot with one of these 4 countries, depending on where they're from, and that's on their mindset as you enter an NHL season. Like I'm sure there are guys that are trying to make an impression and trying to find a spot on that team. What do you make out of it? The 4 nations versus an Olympic format or the World Cup. I know you've been involved with a number of them.
I don't think players really care what the tournament is. The Olympics are the biggest stage other than the Stanley Cup final.
Mm-hmm.
But the Olympics are the biggest stage other than that. But I think players want to play in any tournament. They have a chance to win a gold medal. And they want to represent their country. The proudest moments I've had in my hockey career have been working for USA Hockey, where I had a chance to, because I was never good enough to play for a U.S. national team. I was never picked for an Olympic team. I never would have been. The timing didn't work, and I wasn't that good. So I never got to represent my country except in management. And I was very proud of that. I treasured that. I worked on, I think, 12 teams, 2 Olympic teams, 1 World Cup team, and 9 national teams, I believe, if I have to go back and count them. But so the players will you're right. They will chop off their arm to get a spot on one of those rosters. Mm-hmm. And they are playing like that now. They're trying to earn a spot for one of the 4 teams. So my view on the World Cup or the 4 Nations tournament is I love international hockey. I'm going to watch. It's not perfect. It's not a perfect format, but it's pretty good, and it'll produce some real good hockey.
Hey, I've always said this, and just covering the league for a long time and talking to players, like players can sniff out the phonies. They know which coaches are phonies. When a coach is constantly going after a 4th-line guy or a rookie, we'll have these meetings with coaches, and they're just, hammering on the 19-year-old kid, even though the 27-year-old's making the same mistakes, but they won't touch the 27-year-old. And you see Monty, Jim Montgomery, coaching a guy like Brad Marchand hard. And I'm looking at it like, I bet you the rest of the team appreciates Monty coaching the captain of the team, and a guy's going to go down in history as one of the all-time greats of the Boston Bruins, the same way that he does everybody else. I mean, did you have any problem with that? And you think Brad Marchand would have a problem with it?
No, you can't be hard on guys all the time, especially a player that's been that valuable and is that good a guy and that good a leader. I think to make an example of a guy like that once in a while is good. Mm-hmm. Players like a slug like me, I looked at that and said, that's great. Monty's riding Marshy as hard as he's riding me. That's good because I get ridden all the time because I was a slug. So, I think it has value, but you got to go to the carrot or the stick. You can't use that too often.
Yeah. Yeah. But he's fighting for his job too, Monty. Not that he's, on the block by any means, but at the same time, this guy, listen, he Brad Marchand turned pucks over late in games, like you just got to play the right way. You're right. I think you can't do it all the time. You got to pick your spots. But I think, in that situation, maybe he got everyone's attention. Hey, I'm curious, going to Pittsburgh, what did you learn about a guy like Crosby and Malkin, for that matter, that you didn't know before? I mean, it had to be a great experience for you, even though a person like you who's seen just pretty much everything in hockey, but to work with an iconic player like that, how do you reflect on it?
Well, it's interesting. Last year, someone asked me, because for years people have said, who's the best player you ever had? And I always said Teemu. Mm-hmm. Like in terms of not just being a star hockey player, a hockey Hall of Famer, but a wonderful human being and a great teammate. And I said that again about a year ago, and my girlfriend said to me, what about Sid? And I thought, God, you're right. The best hockey player I ever had was Sid. And Teemu was a close second. And so everything you ever hear about Sidney Crosby is true. And then some. He's that humble, that dedicated, that he's a star. He had 90 or 100 points last year. He said, 36?
Yeah.
So he's still a productive player. He's a great leader. I loved having him. I view that as one of the highlights of my career. It's not just that I got to work in Pittsburgh, which is a great city, but I got to work with Sid. And Malkin is a joy to have on your team. He's a little different. He's he likes to be a class clown. He's a very funny guy, very popular teammate, and gifted. I mean, for a guy his size, he's got probably, he and Anze Kopitar, probably two of the greatest big men that ever played this game in terms of skill level. So, I think I was lucky. I have to mention Chris Letang in that group too.
For sure.
What a great player. What a great person.
Yeah. And P.O. Joseph is here in St. Louis now. He was telling me that he lived with
Great kid.
Letang the last couple of years. So
P.O.'s a great kid.
he's better than I thought he was. You know, like you didn't really get a full read on him in training camp and preseason. First game in Vegas, he struggled a little bit, but the last couple of games, he's settled in. He skates. He can
He
defend.
skates beautifully. He skates beautifully. He skates like a figure skater. He's a great skater. You get the puck out of trouble real fast. He's and a great kid, wonderful kid.
Yeah, great kid for sure. Hey, last thing for you. All right, you're in Toronto. The Blues play the Maple Leafs tonight. I'm just curious where this team is at now versus where they've been the last couple of years. Are they any better? Are they the same? Are they going to run into the same obstacles that they run into every year in the playoffs? Like, do you think they're better suited now to compete? They got Stolars in goal. Like, how do you view this team?
Well, I'll see them tonight. I'm looking forward to that. Seeing Harmony is always great. I get to see the Blues up close. I haven't watched them play yet this year just because of the way the schedules work.
Yeah.
So I'll give you a better scouting report tomorrow or the next day.
Yeah. What about Marner? How do you predict this to play out with him in Toronto? Is he going to stick around there, you think, or you think this is going to be a one and done for him this year?
No, I think he's going to stick around. I think they'll come up with a plan to get him signed. He's a really good player. Like Mitch Marner's a quiet star. He reminds me of Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. Quiet player, just keeps putting up good numbers.
Mm-hmm.
He's not flamboyant or flashy, but he's so smart. And when he's an elite penalty killer, which to me is a real mark of a top player, can you kill penalties?
Yeah.
If you can't kill penalties, you're not a top player for me. That's why Brad Marchand, to me, is so special. Because he kills penalties. And if you're good at it, and you can play and still eat those big minutes and still be a valuable guy, Mitch Marner is all of those things.
Yeah. All right, Burke. Listen, I appreciate it. Hey, keep up the great work on NHL Network Radio, man. Love listening to you on Fridays. And hopefully we can do this again. So always appreciate your time.
Okay, and thank you.
Okay, take care. I hope you enjoyed Brian Burke, man. Love talking to Burke. Always good to talk to him. We had Jammer on earlier. And everyone's celebrating the Blues win, man. Whenever they go to Toronto and win, you just feel like it's a bigger victory, you know? This is Hockey Sense, brought to you by First Community. Also brought to you by Blue Note Roofing, man. I always tell people, look for the big yellow truck with the blue notes. It's not hard to it's not hard to miss.
No.
David Novak, live in studio. Welcome.
Hey, thanks, Andy. Appreciate being here.
Talking to the mic there.
Thanks. I appreciate being here. Appreciate the invite.
What were your thoughts last night, man? That had to make you happy, right? Especially after a tough loss at home against Winnipeg, to see them come back and win in that fashion, right? In Toronto, it's a nice victory to start off the road trip.
Absolutely. I mean, the other night against Winnipeg, I thought they played well. Just didn't get the breaks, didn't get enough loose pucks.
Okay.
And I thought Winnipeg was, especially after the first period, they kind of regrouped and pressured us a lot more.
Yeah.
Last night, I thought, oh, this is going to be a disaster without Tomer. I'm going, this might get ugly. Well, I was totally impressed. I mean, everybody had a good game, in my opinion. I didn't see anybody. I mean, every game you're going to have a few miscues.
Yeah.
But I thought they responded extremely well. It was a total team effort, and they never let Toronto really into the game.
Yeah.
They played their style and they stuck to it, and Toronto had no answer.
Yeah, getting out to an early lead was huge. And they've got that next man up mentality. How long have you been going to Blues games?
Well, I was a season ticket holder the first 3 years that Kiel opened up. My first season as a season ticket holder was the strike-shortened season.
Oh, really?
Where we only got normally you'll get 41 home games during the regular season. That year they cut it down to 21, and you only played the Western Conference.
Okay.
So that was my first year, but
What year was that? 94, 95?
94, 95.
Okay.
Yeah, that was my first year. I had season tickets for 3 years starting then. Then I kind of did a life change with jobs and stuff like that. I was only in my 20s at that time. And then when I don't need to go into my whole history here, but I renewed my tickets and then in 14, 15.
Okay.
And then I've been a season ticket holder ever since.
Yeah. It's always fun going down to the games.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so the roofing industry, is that something you've always been passionate about? How'd you get involved in roofing?
I was actually in the restaurant and bar industry, and I was just transferred out to Columbia, Missouri for a restaurant that's still here, but has declined quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
And I met a guy out there, and we became really close, and he said, "Hey, if you're ever needing a job, you call me up, and I'll hire you in a minute." I go, "I have no idea what you're talking about."
Mm-hmm.
I go, "You're talking this and this," and he goes, "I can teach you all that stuff in 2 weeks, but," he goes, "I need somebody I can trust, and I trust you." So I gave him a call, and I jumped on it, and wasn't sure for the first couple of years, but then it started to really click. And I've been in. This is my total. This is my 19th year in the industry.
Okay. And so the roofing industry is, I feel like it's always thriving, especially in a region like this. I mean, people are always needing new roofing or updated roofing. But give us an idea of everything you guys do.
Normally, we get a lot of calls from areas that had been damaged by hailstorms or windstorms, and we go out and give them a free inspection. And then the homeowner will then contact their insurance company, typically, and then we will meet the insurance adjuster out there, kind of show him what we saw. And with my, like I said, this is my 20th year. I've met most of the adjusters, even a lot of CAT adjusters, catastrophe adjusters that come in from out of town. I've met with many of them before, and they go, "I remember you. Didn't you work with another company at that time?" Yeah. I just opened up my own Blue Note Roofing back in 2023.
How'd you go with the name? Just being a blues fan, easy one.
Being a blues fan, and I just like the way it sounded better than Novak Roofing. My nephew asked me the same thing. "How come you didn't name it after you?" And I go, "I like this name better."
So what do you guys do? You guys do siding, right? Soffit, fascia, gutters, right?
Yep. Roofing, fascia, soffit, siding, gutters, and minor interior. If the roof had leaks or something, my guy will go out and fix it at the very end. Obviously, you get all the exterior stuff first, get that finished up so you don't get any more leaks. And then once we make sure that there are no more leaks, then we touch up the interior for them.
All right, so 314-920-5713.
Yes, sir.
That's the phone number.
Yep.
I got that memorized already.
Absolutely.
314-920-5713. Listen, you hear David Novak, you see his sponsorship and hear us talking about him all the time on Cam and Strick as well, and on Hockey Sense. The best roofer in St. Louis and surrounding areas too, right? You're not just here in St. Louis. You'll head out to Illinois and hit the Illinois, Southern Illinois. And how far out will you go?
Well, I've been down to Poplar Bluff. I've worked in Poplar Bluff. I've worked in outside of Quincy on the Missouri side, and I've been out to Columbia, Missouri, Lake of the Ozarks.
Okay.
My former company that I used to work for and then run, we pretty much took care of the entire state of Missouri, where there'd be times that living in St. Louis, I'd have to go to Springfield for the whole day.
Wow. So he'll go anywhere.
I'll go anywhere for the most part if the price is right.
That's right. 314-920-5713. Favorite blues player ever?
Bernie Federico.
Best blues moment for you ever?
Game 7 of the against Dallas when Patty Maroon scored. Hometown hero, baby.
Hometown hero, baby. What a moment that was.
Yeah, still get goosebumps thinking about that game.
Best captain in blues history?
I'd still have to go with Brian Sutter.
Yeah.
Hard
to go against Brian Sutter.
Yeah, especially when he leads the Blues in penalty minutes.
Brian Sutter was the guy when I was a kid. You just assumed that's the way every captain was supposed to be. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And now, every captain's not like that, right? I mean, some just do it with the play on the ice.
Exactly.
But he kind of had
Austin Matthews does it on the. He's got that.
Yeah.
I'm not a big talker. I'm going to lead by example.
Yeah.
Brian had it both. He led by example, and he wasn't afraid to get in somebody's face.
Who's your favorite player on the team now?
Well, that's a tough one. I'd still have to say Robert Thomas.
Yeah.
I mean, I just love his overall game, and you see his progression he's just getting better and better. Yeah. And everyone, is this the year he's going to get 100 points? Well, now I don't think so.
Yeah.
I thought he had a good opportunity this year, but I mean, being out 6 weeks, who knows it? Hopefully he's back in 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Broken ankle, that's going to be tough.
And there's some whispers internally, like maybe it's 4 to 6, so we'll see if they can, but they're not going to push it.
Right.
I know he had his eye on playing for Canada in the Four Nations too. So, you just wonder, how that maybe impacts his chances to make the Canadian roster. So hopefully he can get back and they can certainly use him. Winter Classic, will you be heading out there?
I'm still working on it.
Okay.
Still working on it.
It's going to be cold.
I don't care. I went to the Minnesota one where it was minus 22. I had a great time.
Would you do that again?
Oh, yeah.
You would.
Hands down.
Your toes, fingers, everything survived?
Everything survived. The only thing that, knowing now, why are all the Wild fans bringing cardboard boxes? Well, they were putting it on the concrete floor to stand on, and I went, okay, those 4 layers of socks still didn't work.
No.
But I go, I'll bring some beer boxes next time, not a problem.
All right, cardboard boxes. That'll keep your toes thawed out. Hey, listen, thanks for coming by.
My pleasure.
And all your support. Again, David Novak, Blue Note Roofing, 314-920-5713. If you are in need of roofing, and you see it on the screen as well, if you're watching on YouTube, if you're listening, again, 314-920-5713. You need roofing, gutters, soffit, siding, fascia. Call the number. You even answer the phone, too.
I do answer the phone. If I don't, leave me a message, and I'll call you right back. That usually means I'm in a meeting of some kind. And also, my website is bluenoteroofingstl.com.
How about that? Arco Construction, we mentioned them. Blue First Community, sign your son or daughter up for Little Blues. Get them signed up for that program. It's the best program in town, hands down. You get like 6 ice sessions for a low cost, great instruction. It comes with all your equipment. So all your parents out there are saying, I don't even know what to go buy. You don't have to worry about it because all the equipment comes in a box. You get everything, including the skates. Don't forget to get the skates sharpened. I mean, too many kids show up and they don't get the skates sharpened. Get the skates sharpened. Comes with a stick. You got everything. And then let them test it out and see if they want to continue. Do a couple of sessions. Little Blues. It's the best program going by First Community. Check out firstcommunity.com. Randy Gersh does a great job with the St. Louis Blues. You can check out the St. Louis Blues website. You can call there and ask for Randy, too. He'll help you, point you in the right direction of how to get your son or daughter registered. Again, David, thanks for coming by, man. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Ian.
We appreciate Brian Burke for joining us today, former GM of the Maple Leafs, the Pittsburgh Penguins most recently. Got into a lot of topics with him. Jamal Mayers, who joined us out from Vegas. And Aiden, everybody affiliated with Half Coast Studios. I'm Andy Strickland, reminding you to keep your head up and your stick on the ice. We'll do it again next Friday. Subscribe to everything. Find our podcast on all podcast platforms.